welcome to PFF at Night. I'm Doug Kyed, joined by Ari Meirov and Brad Spielberger. Back this week. Thanks for holding down the fort last week, Ari and Brad. I think I'm good to go moving forward here. But Ari, how are you doing?
Doing really well. Glad to have you back in the hosting chair. I did it one time. It was okay, but I'd much rather have you doing it. So great to have you back.
Thank you. And Brad, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Don't sell yourself short, Ari. You did all right.
I know. Doug's better.
I'll take it. Biggest name of the day, at least in the NFL world. Let's get right into it. Lamar Jackson. And it's actually for a couple of different reasons. First of all, he was left off the top 10 of a quarterback ranking piece done by Jeremy Fowler on ESPN.com, where he was polling coaches, executives about quarterbacks. And Lamar Jackson was the honorable mention off of that top 10 list below guys like Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow. But then also he changed the header of his Twitter profile to an image that says, "I need money." He clarified this with Safadine of USA Today, saying that it has nothing to do with his contract negotiations with the Baltimore Ravens, that he hopes to reach a new deal by training camp, and that holding out at this point is not on his mind. So, Ari, I'll kick this to you first. I guess, what do you make of the Twitter header profile pic that he changed it to? And do you think that it does have anything to do with the contract negotiations, even just a little bit?
I think it's important for everyone to realize what we're talking about. Like Lamar's negotiations without an agent is still not even a big topic yet, but people are jumping on these little things like his Twitter header changing and people having discussions about how he's going to do it on his own. I just think at this point, it is so crucial for Lamar Jackson just to get this deal done, put this behind him, get that generational wealth now, and let's go back to playing football, talking about football without this becoming an everyday discussion and distraction for the entire team. Because I truly believe if no deal is reached by training camp, we have a couple more weeks left, this topic will become everyday TV coverage on all the national networks, just like the Dak Prescott situation in Dallas was for a full 2 years. They couldn't stop talking about it on ESPN. Every single day it was a topic. This thing will become the same exact thing if Lamar does not get a deal done with Baltimore. I think everyone knows the situation. He's entering the 5th year of his contract. If he doesn't get a deal now, he'll have a franchise tag next year and likely another one after that. He's playing this year on $23 million, fully guaranteed on that 5th year option. This will become an everyday topic if no deal is reached. And I'm happy that he told USA Today those talks are happening right now. Obviously, the market is a bit difficult because of the Deshaun Watson contract. 5 years, $230 million, fully guaranteed. And I would just remind everyone, when Watson got that deal, a lot of owners weren't happy with the Haslam, but it was only one owner out there who publicly put his name out there and said, that deal is not right. Watson should not have gotten it. And it was Stephen Bisciotti, the Ravens owner. So it's a very fascinating situation. I think people are talking about it. I wouldn't say a lot right now, but eventually, if this does not get done in the coming weeks, this is going to become a topic every single day on all these networks, on PFF at Night as well, and everywhere else. And I don't think Baltimore wants that. So we'll see what happens, but it's a fascinating situation.
Yeah, I think they're still kind of fortunate that it's that slow period. I will say that John Harbaugh does a pretty good job of shooting down those big stories. Lamar Jackson has done a good job of it as well. So if anyone could handle it, it probably would be the Ravens, but still, they don't want that discussion every day. Brad, are you surprised, I guess, at this point that a deal hasn't been struck between Jackson and the Ravens?
I'd be surprised in a general sense. Obviously, as Ari mentioned, without an agent, this is a very unique conversation. And I think, you mentioned the ESPN article and him falling outside of the top 10. I think part of that was draft status being the end of first rounder, the last pick in the 2018 draft's first round. Maybe that's also showing itself in negotiations. And they are, Baltimore is not willing to go there to the true upper echelon, top tier of quarterback contracts. And he believes after winning the 2019 MVP and all the things he's done that he deserves that upper echelon top tier contract. And maybe that is the issue there. I would say what surprises me is that they haven't made more of a full court press after trading away Orlando Brown and now Marquise Brown. In my mind, when you look at roster construction, that's kind of the point, right? You say, we are going to save some money at right tackle and at wide receiver. And that savings is because we're about to make our quarterback one of the highest paid players at his position and want to prepare for that ahead of time. So after making those moves, cost savings, doing all those things, getting those extra picks back. The whole point of that, in theory, is to buoy a big contract quarterback. We'll see if it gets done before training camp.
Yeah, and if it doesn't get done, they always have the option of franchise tags. I did just want to run through this list, the actual top 10 list that was posted by Jeremy Fowler. Like I said, talked to execs, coaches, and players. It was Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and Dak Prescott. Like I said, Lamar Jackson was the honorable mention there. I know that a lot of people were kind of up in arms about Lamar Jackson not making this list. I think that this list shows you how good the NFL state of quarterbacks is right now, because quite honestly, it's tough to remove any of these guys to put Lamar Jackson in there. I've seen, I was on Twitter quite a bit today looking at this list, looking at reactions. People thought Russell Wilson might be, should get removed, maybe Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott. But I mean, those are tough guys to take off that list to even get Lamar Jackson on there. So, Ari, I guess, who would you take off that list? Like, is there an obvious candidate for you to take off that list for Lamar Jackson?
It's interesting conversation. I think it's a fun conversation to have with people, but Jeremy clearly pulled other people from other buildings. And I get the feeling that Lamar might not be for everyone in the league, right? He dropped all the way to 32, if not for Baltimore trading back up to the first round. How well would he fit in these other people's offenses, these people that Jeremy is talking to? They don't believe that Lamar would fit whatever they're trying to do. They don't know if it's something that is sustainable. It's a fair question to wonder, but no, Lamar has proven that he is an NFL quarterback. He is, an MVP quarterback, unanimous MVP quarterback, has done it all. And again, you are right, though. Looking at this list, I'm looking at my phone right now. It just really tells you where the NFL right now is from a quarterback standpoint, especially that, last year we had 5 quarterbacks in the first round. This year we had a few more, only one more actually. But point is, every year we have quarterbacks coming in. Next year, everyone believes will be another loaded quarterback class. So from a quarterback standpoint in the NFL, yeah, we're definitely in a good position, but it really could go either way. Probably the only one that I would mention here is that Deshaun Watson hasn't played in well over, 500 days now, and might even miss even more time. I think that one, I don't know if they're going to, look at that whenever he asks that question, but considering the fact he hasn't played in so long, does that make a difference in this list? If not, but whatever the case is, it's definitely a fun conversation to have.
And Deshaun Watson obviously has the highest guaranteed contract in NFL history. So I think that kind of goes to show his value. But Brad, to Ari's point, where Lamar Jackson might not be a quarterback for everyone in the league, is that something that could potentially impact contract negotiations?
Yeah, you'd think it would have to. I mean, in this article, you see, I think in all of these articles, position by position that Jeremy Fowler at ESPN has done, I mean, I think you see guys that are very tethered to their prior from when the guy came out in the draft class, and it's hard for them to kind of separate even years after the player has entered the league, but also just the skill set that they're looking for, the quintessential, this guy is a quarterback. I mean, I kind of chuckled. Look, Joe Burrow's a world-class player, and his offensive line was dreadful last year, but him taking 9 sacks against Tennessee was almost promoted as a positive when all of our data suggests that quarterbacks can control a lot of that, and pressures turning into sacks can often be the quarterback's fault. And they kind of use the language of, he stands in there in the pocket and he's tough. It's like, well, he also could get rid of the ball, or if he's Lamar, he'd probably bail the pocket at that point and go pick up chunk yardage. So it is funny sometimes how you just see that, the ranking is tethered to kind of their perspective on what makes a great quarterback. And I don't think a lot of folks think, Lamar Jackson's the prototypical build for a quarterback, but he's been highly successful in Baltimore, who of course believes in his skill set.
New Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown already going to bat for his quarterback, Jalen Hurts. There was a report from Derek Gunn that there was a 10-play stretch during spring practices where Jalen Hurts threw 3 picks, had 4 incompletions, and 3 sacks in a 10-play stretch. And A.J. Brown kind of defended Jalen Hurts by saying, how is he getting sacked during 7-on-7 drills? And it was funny. I kind of looked into that because most teams run 11-on-11 drills during these spring practices. I was at the Patriots mini camp and OTAs. They run 11-on-11s. The Eagles didn't. They were only going to run 7-on-7s this week or this year. And I do still understand from a spring practice perspective of, okay, maybe there was 3 plays in a row where Jalen Hurts held the ball for too long. It was clear that he would have got sacked on that play, and that might be the way that Derek Gunn or coaches or whomever might be crediting that play. But there's also reasons for that during spring practices, and he might be trying something new out there. I'd say that overall, I'm kind of taking A.J. Brown's side probably on this one a little bit more. If the Eagles had serious concerns about Jalen Hurts, they're pretty much ready to compete in the NFC East right now. I think that they would have made more strides to replace Jalen Hurts. And clearly, they're in a good position to possibly get a quarterback next year in the draft. As Ari said, it's expected to be a stronger class. But just the fact that they're rolling with Jalen Hurts, I do certainly expect this to be his team this year. And I can't imagine there's some serious concerns there. But Ari, what did you make of both of the report about Jalen Hurts and then the reaction from A.J. Brown?
Yeah, I mean, at first, I do agree with you because I thought going into this offseason, right, Philly had 3 first-round picks going into the offseason, and we had all these quarterbacks available. Russell Wilson was out there. Watson was out there. Rodgers might have been out there. And Wilson was the one everyone was pointing to because Jeffrey Lurie is on the record as someone who loves Russell Wilson. He wished they drafted him back in 2012 when he was out there. And they even tried to trade for him after the Seahawks drafted him, which is a crazy thing. Obviously, Seattle said no, but point is that's how much they loved him. And him being available this offseason and Philly not being aggressive at it tells me they're all in with Jalen Hurts this year. Now, going into this year, I find Jalen Hurts' situation to be a really fascinating one because I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but since he wasn't a first-round quarterback like Lamar, he doesn't have that fifth-year option. So at this time next year, he'll be entering the final year of his contract. So if he has a great year or even above average year, what does Philly do from there? And they're giving him A.J. Brown now, along with Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. The running game at the end of last year was pretty good. They had a number of running backs doing a great job there for Nick Sirianni. The offensive line is intact. The defense just added guys like Hassan Reddick and James Bradbury and Jordan Davis. So last year was a great year. No one expected them to make the playoffs. But I'll probably also remind everyone that their schedule to end the season when they went on that run was a fairly easy one. I mean, I think they had the Giants twice, the Washington twice, the Jets, the Dolphins. Strength of schedule wise, I believe in October, according to PFF data, they had the easiest strength of schedule to end the year. So that's how it was. Definitely played a big part in them making the playoffs. So he has pressure this year to perform, but if he does, his contract situation with Philadelphia will be a fun one to watch because I think at least it has the potential to get to Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins territory where the team isn't sure if they want to commit to him, especially with a team like Philadelphia that just went through this with Carson Wentz. So if he has a good year this year, an above average year, what they do with him will definitely be one to watch, but they're all in on him this year just based off the fact they didn't go after any other quarterback this offseason alone.
Eagles do still have Gardner Minshew at quarterback as well. But, I mean, just as far as that division goes, the Commanders didn't get significantly better this season. The Giants are in a rebuild. And the Cowboys actually made some moves that might have made them worse over this offseason. So Eagles are definitely in a position to compete in that division. Brad, you pointed out a tweet from A.J. Brown where he actually showed some history of the Eagles franchise. I was pretty impressed by A.J. Brown's knowledge there, despite being a new player.
Yeah, that was, I think, my biggest takeaway at first as well. Was good for him for knowing about Vince Papale. I guess we've all seen Invincible, regardless of your football upbringing. But yeah, he scored 3 touchdowns in practice, according to A.J. Brown. The Jalen Hurts situation is fascinating, as Ari mentioned. I think in particular because the Eagles are known as a team that gets early extensions done wherever they can. And so if Hurts has a good year and is going into his final year, if it was at a different club, there'd be less questions. But in Philadelphia, where all they tried to do is get deals done early, will they go the same route with Carson Wentz on the back of their mind, him getting his deal after 3 years and being some questions there, more health related, but still more question marks there. I think it's one of the most fascinating storylines in the league this year. And I think the fact that I have 2 first-round picks in next year's draft, thanks to New Orleans Saints, is also very, very relevant to this entire situation in Philadelphia. And look, they took Hurts when they had Wentz under contract and didn't necessarily know where they stood with him. They are never afraid to kind of churn the roster over and keep looking for that next great player.
Sure. Speaking of quarterbacks and wide receivers going to bat for them, Tyreek Hill has been doing kind of a media tour where he's been talking up his new quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. His latest comments, I think, were pretty interesting. He said, in the NFL, they only give you like 2 or 3 years to be a successful quarterback, especially if you're a first-round draft pick. And if you don't succeed after those years, then it's kick rocks, man. So basically, they're going to put Tua into that. So this is basically his last year to show people what he's got. I think that that's actually pretty fair from Tyreek Hill. And I personally expect Tua to have a much better season this year. He's got Jalen Waddle in the offense. Like Gesicki's back on the franchise tag. Tyreek Hill, a massive addition. And I was talking to Rick Spielman about some teams that could make waves in the 2022 season. And he thought that Mike McDaniel was a really good fit for Tua Tagovailoa, adding the running backs around him that can kind of protect him. And he thought that he could maybe do some similar things with Tua that the 49ers did with Jimmy Garoppolo. And, win despite not maybe having the most talented player at that position. And I think they've set Tua up well to do that. So I think that Tyreek Hill is right in the fact that if Tua doesn't show it this year, despite everything that they put around him, despite having an offensive-minded head coach, then there might be some discussions about moving on after this season. And I know that Tom Brady's been a popular name tied to the Miami Dolphins. I don't think that that's necessarily going to go away unless Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers reach a long-term deal. But Brad, what'd you make of Tyreek Hill's comments?
Yeah, so you pointed out kind of the surrounding situation. I also would point out Teron Armstead, he comes in there for the New Orleans Saints. Yeah. Since 2019, over the last 3 seasons, and I say since 2019 because that's when Miami traded away Laramie Tunsil. He's graded around about 83, and the left tackle spot for the Dolphins is around a 50. So he's about 30-point improvement from grading. That was the Dolphins was the lowest of any team in the NFL, and Teron Armstead is one of the best left tackles in football. And then a second stat for you, Tyreek Hill is top 5 in receptions in under 2.5 seconds. So ball gets snapped. Quarterback wants to get it out quickly. They find Tyreek Hill early and often. Patrick Mahomes is known for throwing down the field, but a lot of that is more scramble drill than it is Tyreek Hill just running go routes all over the place, over and over again. So I think there is going to be success there with the fastest offense maybe in the NFL. Gesicki has a good big body down in the red zone and on third downs and stuff like that. It's a great situation. I think the counter to that always is same with Jalen Hurts. It's a great situation. Therefore, you have no excuses. If he doesn't play well this year, I think he's gone 100%.
And do you think it's going to be more team success driven with Tua's future, or is it going to be kind of individual success for him? Because the Miami Dolphins, I think, are set up pretty well, even in the AFC East. Obviously, they're probably not going to pass the Buffalo Bills, but I think that at least on paper, they're better than the New England Patriots, better than the New York Jets. So is it really, just team success that Tua needs, or does he also need those individual numbers as well?
I think you need a blend of both. And Tua is a bit unique because we always talk about this, but the 2-and-on is really, it's real. It's real in Miami. Like they love Tua in Miami. So even if it's just an above average year and they are able to win 9-10 games, whatever it is, I think that's enough for him to still be the quarterback moving forward. But going back to Tyreek Hill for a second, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like he should also maybe stop talking so much about Tua, because at some point it just becomes too much. I mean, comparing him to Mahomes, saying he's more accurate than Mahomes, now saying this is Tua's last chance to prove himself, and saying, I think he mentioned the Dolphins social media team purposely put out the video of him underthrowing the ball because they know what Tua is capable of and they want the conversation to start now so eventually he could prove them wrong. Just there's too much Tua talk going on right now, and it's being started by his own teammate. But just overall, this team, remember, Tua came into the league with a defensive-minded head coach. His first year was a split-time situation kind of thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick. His second year, all the Deshaun Watson stuff was going on. They almost got him, didn't get him. Finally, once that discussion was over, they were winning games. This is his first year where they're essentially really all in with him. Offensive-minded head coach. Tyreek Hill is coming in with Jalen Waddle. You mentioned Teron Armstead, Connor Williams as well on the offensive line. That offensive line has been atrocious. All 5 positions, really 4, but really they've been so bad during those 2 years. And, adding so many speed guys like Raheem Mostert as well. Cedric Wilson was added to this team. Chase Edmonds was added to this team. There's just so much speed on this team that some way, somehow, Mike McDaniel and his big brain, like Kyle Shanahan would say, he'll figure it out. out there. So it's definitely one of the most fascinating teams in the NFL in the quarterback situation. But I don't think there's any other quarterback with more pressure coming into this season than Tua Tagovailoa. What he does, it's under a microscope right now by everybody. The amount of OTA Twitter discussion that has been going on was insane. So yeah, it's going to be a nonstop discussion, and Tua will have to try to end the hate and try to prove everyone wrong.
I think that the hope there in Miami is that running game, the offensive line, the new weapons should take some pressure off of Tua Tagovailoa that Tyreek Hill is now creating for him. I mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo earlier in regards to Mike McDaniel. Another report from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. He said that the Seahawks are doing homework on Jimmy Garoppolo. They've done film work to see how he would fit, and internally they've discussed Jimmy Garoppolo playing for them. That's once again from Jeremy Fowler. This would definitely surprise me a little bit just because it would be in division. Jimmy Garoppolo obviously on the San Francisco 49ers. They've been longtime rivals now with the Seattle Seahawks since the Seahawks have entered the NFC West. But at the same time, the 49ers might run out of suitors for Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Seahawks might really be the only team left looking for a starting quarterback. So, Ari, I'll turn to you on this one. I mean, is there even another option out there for Garoppolo? I know we've kind of joked around about maybe the Browns getting in on him, Houston Texans, but they seem to be all in on Davis Mills. And if there isn't any other options, then why wouldn't the Seahawks just sit back and wait for the 49ers to make their own decision on Garoppolo?
I think that's probably what is going on over there. I mean, like, they're looking at the situation right now where does Jimmy Garoppolo fit? If it's nowhere, the 49ers eventually will have to make a decision here. And if they cut him, then we'll go after him. I think that does make a lot of sense because Seattle really hasn't been that aggressive in the quarterback market. They seem to be okay with a Drew Lock and a Geno Smith. They were never that serious about Baker Mayfield. We discussed this last week, but the whole Jimmy Garoppolo situation, the only one that might make sense could be Cleveland if Deshaun is suspended for a full year, where it's like, we don't want to go 17 games with Jacoby Brissett. Deshaun's contract's going to toll. Let's bring in Jimmy on a renegotiated deal. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe there is a freak injury in training camp and an opening opens up somewhere. But when you look around the NFL right now, not many places make sense. I just don't know if San Francisco would do a trade with a division rival. It's not a rare thing. It has happened. It happened with Donovan McNabb, I believe. That's over a decade ago, but it has happened. But it's just hard for me to see a team like San Francisco going and moving him to Seattle, seeing him twice a year and having those quote unquote revenge games there. So I, for now, really don't know where else there is an option. I think Seattle does make the most sense from everyone in the NFL, but those division trades are always very complicated and, again, very rare. So for now, I'm sure they're doing some homework, seeing if it makes sense, if he becomes available, if he's released. But to actually have a trade go down, I think that's something hard for me to see happen.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo would be a pretty clear upgrade in Seattle over guys like Drew Lock and Geno Smith. But at the same time, Seattle's pretty clearly in their own rebuild right now. So I'm not sure if it necessarily makes sense for them to get Jimmy Garoppolo for 1 year, just kind of weather the storm anyway. Brad, what do you think about the fit for Jimmy Garoppolo in Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen an increase in interdivision trades. Obviously, the New England Patriots went ahead and traded a third-round pick for Devontae Parker, the wide receiver with the Dolphins. But I think a franchise quarterback is different, right? That's just giving a team in your division a guy that could, potentially lead them to the playoffs or whatever the case may be, is a hard pill to swallow if that does happen and does not play well with your fan base. I actually do think he'd fit fine in Seattle, though. He's obviously used to a run-first offense. Shane Waldron there, from that kind of same family of guys with that outside zone system and all the things he's used to there. I just think it's more, like you said, if he's cut, then they'll explore it. And one other team I guess I would throw out if I was trying to grasp at straws is maybe if Jameis Winston, his knee recovery from his ACL tear, maybe if they don't love where it's at, although there's no indication that's the case, maybe they think, hey, we're still a team that's trying to compete. We're spending money. We're doing all these things on defense and adding wide receivers and everything. Let's go out and get Jimmy Garoppolo if we think Jameis is not there. But there's no indication that's the case.
Yeah, it's a strange situation for Jimmy Garoppolo, where I certainly think he's one of the best 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, but teams that he would be an upgrade over just simply sometimes, like with the Houston Texans, just don't really make sense right now. In stadium news, Heinz Field, the Steelers' home stadium, changing the name to Acrisure Stadium. Ari, do you have more details on this new name change?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, the reaction by everyone is they're not a big fan of it. And it just doesn't really roll off the tongue the way it should. And Heinz Field was obviously an iconic name. It's one of the most recognizable names, and it's no more. But the reality here is that it's a business. Football is a business, and this is all about the money. And Heinz actually just put out a statement saying in part, while we worked diligently with the Steelers for several months around the new naming rights deal, they found a new partner willing to pay significantly more than we could justify. So yeah, it was a money thing. And that's really what it comes down to. It's money. This is easy money for owners. SoFi, I believe, is paying $20 million a year on a 20-year contract to have the naming rights in LA. The Steelers are likely getting a boatload of money as well on a 15-year contract from an insurance company in Michigan, not even in Pennsylvania, in Michigan. But it just feels like some names shouldn't change, like Staples Center changed early this year, and that was an adjustment for everybody. This will be one too as well, but obviously at the end of the day, whoever pays the most is the one who gets it, and Heinz did not step up to the plate. Pittsburgh has a new name. I'm not sure how many people will actually change it. I think a lot of us will still be going by Heinz Field, but I'm sure Jim Nantz and Mike Tirico and all those guys, whenever they have a Steelers game, will give it the new name. So we'll have to move forward.
Yeah, I was gonna say, good for Acrisure for shoring up this deal, but I feel like everyone's still gonna be calling it Heinz Field for at least like 10 of the next 15 years that Acrisure has the naming rights. Brad, any reaction to Acrisure? Are you an Acrisure customer?
Am I an Acrisure guy? No, I personally learned about Acrisure this morning, as I think all of us did. I think you guys nailed it at the end there, though. That I think maybe Heinz even realized that at a certain point they become so synonymous with the stadium that it doesn't even really matter. You don't have to pay anymore. People are just going to keep calling it that. Like, I'm a Cubs fan. If they change Wrigley Field, I'm never going to not call it Wrigley Field. So it's like sometimes you don't even have to pay the money. You might just get the value for free.
Very true. One other interesting story that came out today, Condoleezza Rice, former United States Secretary of State, and once rumored Browns head coaching candidate, is now part of the Broncos ownership group. I think that, obviously that's interesting and notable in itself, but I think that the new ownership group in Denver will be very valuable for the Broncos because, when you would talk about the Broncos being a potential candidate for quarterbacks, and obviously it worked out for them with Russell Wilson, there was always, I always heard that, the ownership is kind of shaky. I'm not sure if that's necessarily where, head coach A or quarterback B or whoever it would be would want to go to Denver. I think that this ownership group will just strengthen even player coach acquisition for the Broncos in the future. But Brad, is there anything that you can tell us about, I guess, the money that goes into this or, what the stake is that Condoleezza Rice is going to have or anything here?
Yeah, well, first you mentioned maybe if it impacts player, additions. This is a Walton family, and Stan Kroenke, as we know, the owner of the Rams, is married to a Walton. So, they're willing to spend money on players, it seems. Yeah, I think it's pretty fascinating that the team was valued at $3.75 million by Forbes, and they sold for $4.65 billion. So almost $1 billion more. It does sound like I'm blanking on his first name, but Mr. Walton didn't want to mess around with deals and going back and forth, and just decided to step up and just buy the team with cash because we all have $5 billion in cash laying around. But yeah, so no, I think it's fascinating from an NFL team valuation perspective. I mean, the Patriots were bought for $172 million in 1994. They're now worth, I think, $5 billion. The values just keep going up and up and up. And when someone pays above market like that, the price is whatever someone's willing to pay. And I think the prices might even be on those Forbes lists, frankly, might be on the lower end because, these guys, they just want to come in and buy these clubs. As for Condoleezza Rice, to be on the CFP committee as a chairwoman, to be a member of Augusta, and now as part of the ownership group of the Broncos, a true sporting legend that almost had that Browns head coaching job wrapped up. So cheers to Condi.
Ari, were you surprised that this was announced the way it was today?
I mean, it definitely came out of left field. I mean, I think we could say that. I mean, Condoleezza Rice, she put out a statement that she actually grew up in Denver and stuff to that nature, but she is a Cleveland Browns fan. As you guys mentioned, she was purported as a potential candidate once upon a time for that head coaching job. But that's when we all found out she's a big football person. But yeah, I mean, timing wise, they're clearly still putting together the final pieces for this ownership group. It will be officially finalized in the coming weeks, and they'll officially have the new ownership there. And listen, Rob Walton, his net worth is $59 billion. The next closest owner is Dave Tepper, all the way down at $17 billion. So in terms of just cash on hand and all this different stuff, Denver is definitely in a good spot. And I think his first task, well, not really first task, but one of his first big contracts that he'll be giving out will probably come in next offseason with Russell Wilson, when he will most likely be looking for a gigantic, massive contract considering what he just got traded for. So he'll have to open up those pocketbooks fairly early in his tenure as owner of the Broncos.
Absolutely. And yeah, having cash on hand is probably more important than some people give it credit for in the NFL, and the Broncos certainly have quite a bit of it at this point. Well, we will be back with you guys on Wednesday. Thank you, Ari. Thank you, Brad, for joining me. You can follow Ari on Twitter at MySportsUpdate. You can follow Brad at PFF_Brad. You can follow me at Doug Kyed, and keep it on PFF.com for all of your news and analysis moving forward.
Shout out Zach Wilson.